So we went to chapter 2. This is on the 4 seasons. The 4 seasons are also in alliance with the 4 directions. And these 4 seasons, the first one would be spring. And the springtime, newness, it's when the seeds had been germinated. It'd be an energy field and creation of new life coming into the world. New ideas, new concepts, new visions and dreams. It's when the animals and nature becomes more awakened, alivened. It's a time of birthing. And the relationship between man and the natural world becomes more translucent. At that time we have the ability to be in a rejuvenating place of this newness. So it's also about this change. Even though we hold, like a seed would be holding that DNA, that energy, but it's not going to grow exactly the same that it did the year before. And in the ancient times, they would plant the seeds in the springtime, and it wouldn't just be about one, it would be about the family, 5 seeds, and they would all grow in the springtime, begin to sprout. And you'd be able to take a look at how that family or how that germination of creation was going to come to be through these seasons. And they could tell what was to come in the next seasons. So this is one of the basic principles of the 4 seasons. And why we would pay attention to the springtime. It's when you see all the stillness then becoming more alive. So the next season in life that we get to experience as a human being and in the plant and animal kingdom and nature would be summer. And in the summer is like the high, when you look in the sky, it's when the sun is at the greatest peak, midway, and some of the longest days. It's at that point where you can have more daytime, as you know, depending on the regions and areas around the world that you live. And this energy rejuvenates us in our cellular bodies. And going back to where the seed you would have seen mid-stage of this spring planting growing, we get to observe the growth of the cycle from the newness to observe the mid-cycle, summertime, of how our growth has transpired in our interrelationship. Again, reflecting at all the nature, the trees that have already had their flowers. And in the natural world, in indigenous ways, they'd again be able to know the cycles of time, what was coming for the next season. And that they would observe the trees, the herbs, the medicines, their gardens, the rivers. And it's when more elements come through the rain, some storms, things of that nature. And that would be a response from the natural world in the summertime when the big storms come. They look at that as like the clearing of the energy field or the vortexes or the regions of the land. They come as allies, these storms. And they come to rejuvenate the land and nurture these plants that had been planted in the springtime. So a very powerful time to go out and go to the vortexes and sacred sites in the midsummer, high summer. And it's when you could be most open and be able to express yourself to this divine creation. And the next cycle and the next season here, we would look towards fall. And fall would represent the coming of the harvest. All that was prepared from the spring, all that was observed and worked over in the summertime, and gathering all of that energy, all of that maintenance, all of that preparation that you've nurtured, that seed from springtime through the height of summer, and made that inner relationship through the sun, through the earth. And that would depend on how well you took care of your plants, of your herbs, of your garden. And again, going back to spring, that your family, when they planted, they didn't plant one. They looked at the family. So the fall time was not only about an individual or a family or a community, but it was about the abundance for all. And so that would be shown. You would see that come to be in your planting, in your harvest, your connection, the connection that the individual and family and community would have with the natural world. The sun, the moon, the creation, the nature. And so in that harvest time, all of your fruits and herbs, corn, squash, beans, would show that. And there would be great ceremonies held at the harvest time. And not only that the families would be invited, but all of the community would be invited to share in this great harvest and celebrate, eat together, dance together, pray together. And each of these seasons would have those specific ceremonials. But this would be one of the high seasons, the high celebrations. Might go for 4 days where they celebrate this harvest. Celebrate their connection to this Mother Nature and to this earth. The fourth season would be winter time. In the winter, they would have gathered all the leftover seeds, all the leftover herbs, medicines, plants, everything that they have moved through in the spring, summer, fall, and give thanks for this abundance that they had. The abundance that carried them through these seasons, the abundance that they were going to take into what they call the hibernation, or into the winter time. And they would welcome all of the principles of not only the foods but also the animals. At that time prior, they would hunt for the elk and moose and deer and be with the rivers prior to them freezing and hunt and get enough food for the everlasting winter time, and pray again and give thanks for this dormant and introspection time to gather all that they had. And by then they would have traded and exchanged, so that everyone, every individual, every family, every community member would have enough to make it through the winter until the next spring. Enough wood, enough water, enough food, enough happiness, enough joy, enough connection. And that would be a time of storytelling of the indigenous ways of life, where they would share their experiences from the spring, summer, and fall, and be able to laugh and celebrate and sit around and give thanks to this creation and prepare themselves for this new rejuvenation, because they knew that spring would becoming again. And that they would begin that cycle, the cycle of life once again, and have that opportunity to rebirth their thoughts, their speech, the things that they would talk about throughout the winter, their hearts and their expression, and to gather that strength and courage for a new year, for the next season to come.